speeds manuals, which is the technical presentation. This is the first speech, which is called a technical briefing. His objectives are as follows. Using a systematic approach, organize technical material into a concise presentation, which we will see shortly. He also has to tailor the presentation to the audience needs. So as you're thinking about feedback, just remember that. And also not just your needs, but your interest and your knowledge level. The title of his speech is Are Cell Phones Safe? And he will be speaking from 8 to 10 minutes. I ask all the speakers to tell me what their New Year's resolutions are and their goals. And Dale has some very lofty goals. Let me share. He's going to learn to meditate. He's going to also use all his vacation days while he meditates. And this is going to be so exciting. This year he wants to get to his Advanced Communications Silver. Let's welcome Dale Yatlin.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Imagine the following scene. You're riding on a train, minding your own business, reading the newspaper, and suddenly you smell smoke. You look around, and the passenger next to you reaches into his pocket, pulls out a cell phone, and it bursts into flames. Now, this is a scene no one wants to experience, but if you've been following the news, you know that the Samsung Galaxy Note 7s have been catching on fire. And it's raised a lot of questions about the safety of those phones in particular, and cell phones in general. So tonight, I'm going to answer a very important question. Are cell phones safe? Now, the answer to that question is yes, cell phones are safe. But to make sure all of you here feel comfortable and safe using your phone, I'm going to explore this issue in depth. So, let's get started. There we go. Now, I'm assuming most people here have smartphones. Is that right? Most people have smartphones? If you do, there are 7 components to your smartphone. Let's take a look at each one of those. Moving from left to right, stand over here. There's first the battery cover. So that starts at the bottom. Next to that, there's a battery. So that's the engine of your smartphone. Next to that, there's a shell that protects the battery. And then we get to the real important part. Clicker. We have the motherboard in green. So that's kind of the circuitry, the brains of the operation. Then you have another shell that protects that motherboard. Then we have the liquid crystal display. So that's what displays all the apps that we commonly use. And then finally, there's a touch panel, which we use to actually use the phone. So at a kind of a high level, those are the 7 basic components of your smartphone. So now that we know what it looks like, how do those things work? Now, how many people here currently use a landline? I still have a landline at home, so not that many, just a couple. You two do. So landlines rely. I was the only one. Landlines rely on electrical cables in order to send and receive phone calls. So it's very similar to if you're a little kid, you have a little tin can with a piece of rope connected to Nori, she picks up on the other end, and you're talking to each other. That's the essential model of landlines. You need those cables in order to send and receive phone calls. Now, let's take a look at cell phones. Cell phones rely on wireless technology. So you have a lot of radio waves, in particular, electromagnetic radio waves. That's the real magic behind cell phones. So remember that term. Now, what's interesting about those radio waves is that they're all invisible to us. But if you had electromagnetic radio wave glasses and you put those things on, you would see we're bathing in a sea of electromagnetic radio waves. We couldn't even see each other. There's so many in this room and in the community overall. They're everywhere. But fortunately, take those glasses off, it's all invisible to us, which is great. So we can see each other. So that's the magic behind it. So now that you know about electromagnetic radio waves, how do cell phones actually work? So for this, I'm going to try the demonstration here. Let's see if this works here. I'm going to call my dear friend Sharon, because I've not seen her in so long. I want to wish her a Happy New Year. Let's see if this works.
Hello.
Hey, Sharon, it's Dale.
Dale, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye, Dale.
Oh, you're right there. So, what just took place? Oh, just a simple call between Sharon and me. A lot just took place. So let's see what happened there. When you place a phone call on your cell phone, it takes your voice, and converts that to electrical signals. From there, that gets sent to a microchip in your phone, which then converts those electrical signals into a sequence of numbers. Next, the sequence of numbers get packed into the radio waves and shot out of your antenna at the speed of light. All magic and safe. It's fascinating what just took place, but we take it for granted. The key thing, it's safe. Oh, there we go. So now that we know that electromagnetic radio waves are the key to cell phones, we understand how it works, but how was I able to connect directly to Sharon's phone? For that, we have to introduce two terms. One is mast, and the other is base station. So a mast are basically those antennas, long poles you see when you're driving down the highway. So people seen those before. Sometimes they're camouflaged as trees. But essentially, they're antennas. And next to that, you have a base station, that little box right there. So the mast receives the call, sends it to the base station, and that routes it to the proper destination, in this case, to Sharon. So here's some other examples of how they try to camouflage those masts. The one in the middle I think I've seen on Hutchinson Parkway, that kind of tree there. But they try to make it blend in with the scenery. But masts take the calls, base stations send them to the proper destination. Now there's another term we have to discuss. And that is cells. If you were to fly over Fairfield County in a helicopter and look down at the geography, you would see masts and base stations dotted throughout the geography. Each one of those is in a tightly defined cell. And that's what's critical in order to make calls connect with one another. So there are cells basically throughout the world. But you always have a mast and a base station. So when I called Sharon, let's say Sharon was in Stamford in A, I'm in Norwalk in B. My phone call would shoot up to the nearest mast and base station, then shoot over to her nearest mast and base station to Sharon, and then to her phone. Now in this case, when I called her, we're still within the same cell, so it shot up to a mast and base station, presumably in Stamford, and directly to her phone. It's all perfectly safe. What if you're driving? So now you're going between cells C, D, and E, you're all over the place. Well, that signal's going to follow you wherever you go. And it travels at the speed of light, so it can definitely catch up to you. So it's fascinating. Once again, all perfectly safe. Now, at the beginning of my speech, I talked to you about the components of a smartphone. Let's take a second to talk about the battery, because it's the battery that's at the heart of the issue with the Note 7. So here's a picture of a Note 7, presumably. It's hopefully someone is carefully removing that battery. And here's what we know. Note 7s, like all smartphones, use lithium-ion batteries for their power. And within those batteries, there's highly flammable liquid. If that battery gets punctured, it explodes. So what happened with our Note 7? It's a manufacturing error. It's believed that during the manufacturing process, there was too much pressure put on the shell of the batteries, causing it to either puncture and eventually catch fire. So it's a manufacturing error explicitly with those Note 7s. So hopefully you don't have a Note 7. Otherwise, your phone should be safe. Now, that's the Note 7. What about cell phones in general? Are they safe? A lot of research has been done. I pulled up a lot of articles, but here's a quote from the Institute of Cancer Research. And they had the following quote, only a scientist could put it. Accumulating evidence is increasingly against the hypothesis that mobile phone use can cause brain tumors. That is their way of saying it's safe. So the scientists do believe that mobile phones are safe. So the issue is with the Note 7. So my message to you is cell phones are safe. Continue to use your cell phone. It's hard to imagine a time where we all go back to landlines, even though the three of us would love to see that. So your phone is safe. But whatever you do not use a Note 7 on a train. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And we now own a clicker for